Welcome back to The Alt. Thank you for joining me again today. I'm your host, Shapirian. Super excited to be back with you after Week 9 NFL Sunday is written in the books. Guys, it was a crazy week of football. Some not close games, some close games. Overall, a lot of fun, which is exactly what I was hoping it would be. Before we get into the show, I do want to start and say, appreciate your patience. No Thursday episode, no Friday episode. It was very strange. Won't get into the details because it's just boring details. I just had the longest week of work I've had since January to wrap up October. January is my busy season. That's to be expected. This week was not to be expected. I didn't see it coming. It came out of absolutely nowhere. Drained me. Tons of overtime. Great. Super fun stuff. So that's why I was unable to get the show out for Thursday and Friday. We'll do better this week. It should be normal, smooth sailing ahead from now on. But overall, excited to be back with you today. Let's talk some football. We're going to talk about Lions-Packers. We're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to talk about a bunch of the games from today. I'm super excited to get into it. Before we do me a favor. Check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. Please, seriously, check and see if you're subscribed. If you're not, please hit that little button. It means a ton to me. It really means a ton. We're getting close to 100 subs, which would be a huge deal and a huge boost to me that I would really appreciate. So check and see if you're subscribed. All right, without any further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about America's Game of the Week for this past week. Let's talk about Lions-Packers. I don't know that the final result ended up being America's Game of the Week worthy, but it was a fine game overall. A lot of fun to get through this one. The Lions ended up pulling out over the Packers 24-14, and that's where I'm going to start is with the Lions, because we do tend to like to focus on the teams who won on this show for the most part when we're talking about these games. Let's talk about the Lions. Guys, it's absolutely wild to me how good they are in all three phases of the game. Offense, defense, special teams. We saw that in that demolishing of the Titans last week, but that's the Titans. This is the Packers, and yes, they won by 10, and yes, the game was mathematically close down the stretch. Sure, I can completely vibe with all of that, but overall, this is a road game for first place in the NFC North on the line. If they would have lost, the Packers would have had a tiebreaker there, right? And it's outdoors, in the elements, Lambeau, rainy, cold-ish. It was in the 40s, windy. It looked awful out there. Freaking Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Lions, couldn't see through his glasses, I feel like. They showed those shots of him. It looked crazy. And what happened? The Lions went out and got the job done. And overall, 10-point win. They looked like the better team all game. Period, in my opinion. Now, before we get any deeper into this game, I do want to say so much for all that Jared Goff outdoor talk, huh? And I do get it. The stats of him indoors versus the stats of him outdoors are drastically different. I totally understand. But we were like, second guessing them, outdoors, and the Packers are hot, and the Packers offense is nuclear, and the back. Come on. I did not doubt that the Lions are going to be able to get the job done in this one. And I have this to say about the Lions for the way they've played so far this season. The Detroit Lions, is it Detroit? I've heard both, obviously, throughout the years, are playing let me backtrack. The only consistent championship caliber brand of football that I've seen all season in the NFL has been played by the Detroit Lions. I think the Chiefs are undefeated. Come on, they're doing the thing. Guys, there's a couple games, a handful, 3 or 4 of these games we've had from the Chiefs where have those in the playoffs against a team that's hotter with a better offense, and you're losing that game. And I don't think Chiefs fans would disagree with me on that, right? I saw a Chiefs fan talk about how that Germany game, or not the Germany game. That's a different game. That was last year. They had the Germany game, but they do play the Panthers, right? And someone was like, "This is gonna be a one-score game." That's where the Chiefs' offense is. Look, what about the Ravens? They just lost to the Browns last week, guys. And this week, Jameis Winston threw 3 picks and only put up 10 points against the Chargers. The Detroit Lions have played the best overall brand of football in the NFL this season. And then they're obviously, like I've said, number 1 in the power rankings. I think most people would agree on that. For Jared Goff, let's talk about him more for just a second. Has anyone been able to figure out, besides maybe Ben Johnson's incredible offensive scheme being the reason, why his completion percentage has jumped so much? He's 10 points over his career average, and it's not like this is year 4 and he's blossoming. This is year 9 or 10 for Jared Goff, right? And I just don't know how he's managing to be this good when he's never been this good ever. I legitimately think he looks MVP caliber, and we have to start having those conversations. If I had to put a ballot in right now for the MVP of the season after Week 9 Sunday, ahead of the Monday night game, my MVP vote is for Jared Goff. It really is. And we'll talk a little bit later in the show about another guy who I think is going to be there. I don't think he'll win it. But I don't think you give it to Lamar, because I think he's getting so much help from Derrick Henry, and that offense is just firing on all cylinders. And like I said, Henry is a big part of that. I think it's Jared Goff. With the state of the NFC right now, the Detroit Lions look like they are Super Bowl or bust. And that's Super Bowl appearance or bust. But obviously, you get there, you're planning on winning. You're not planning on going home. Well, we're happy to be here, guys. You want to win if you get there, okay? And I think that's the only way they would have it, is to be Super Bowl or bust. And truthfully, I'm pulling really hard for them. Let's go back to Green Bay, the other side of this game. They only put up 14 points today. It's a really good Detroit defense, even though Brian Branch got ejected, even though Aiden Hutchinson is out for the season, things of that nature. It was a tough day for them. Jordan Love had the kind of game day that he is going to occasionally have, though that pick six was really bad. But I have to ask, why did Detroit's offense seem better at dealing with the elements than Green Bay? Jared Goff has a legitimate reputation for he's outside. He can't play outside. It's crazy to me. They're obviously still going to be fine. They're now 6-3, but they're probably not winning the division after today. Not that I had them doing so anyways. I think most of us had the Lions winning that division, but come on. What is the deal with the way they look today? I'm just not willing to budge on the Green Bay Packers ceiling. Jordan Love, like I said, he plays very Favre-esque. He is a perfect Green Bay quarterback. He is totally 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions kind of game most weeks, right? I'm not budging on their ceiling. He's very good. They're going to be in most games, even in the playoffs. But to me, the playoffs are their ceiling. They are playoff contenders. It certainly looks like they're going to be there. Like I had the Bears being there, and they got some help with the Bears today, and things of that nature. But as currently conducted, I just can't see them being true Super Bowl contenders. I just can't. Maybe they make a change at the deadline that we're not currently projecting. Maybe. I don't know. With that said, though, today's game is more about the Lions than it is about the Packers. And the Lions look nuclear and incredible and easily like the best team in the NFL like they have all season. Let's move on to a game that was way, way, way less fun than this one, unless you are a Baltimore Ravens fan. Let's talk Ravens, Broncos. The Baltimore show got back on track after a dumb game last week in Cleveland that they managed to barely lose. The Ravens were clearly the better team today. That said, the 41-10 final there, I don't really think it was reflective of Denver's effort. I think Denver fought nicely, especially in the second half. I just think offensively they are a team that is lacking. I think that's going to kill them down the stretch. And Baltimore, the best offense in the NFL, right? I don't mean to put too much on a rookie here, and I certainly will be focusing more on Baltimore here because, like I just said, we focus on the teams that win more than the teams that lose. But this was the kind of game you could not have from Bo Nix, right? 19 for 33 is what he went today, and he did have an interception, 223 yards total, no touchdowns. Of course, they only scored 10 points, but you couldn't afford this. That said, they were hanging around and had some opportunities. They just couldn't quite convert on. He had a receiving touchdown today, by the way. Bo Nix did. He had their only offensive touchdown was a receiving touchdown thrown by Courtland Sutton. Look, this game got out of hand because of some events that occurred right before halftime. Denver was driving. They kicked a field goal with 35, 40 seconds, I think, in the first half left to make it 17-10. They were down 17-10. And it's hey, we're right there. We're right there. Baltimore went right down and scored on a huge, long Zay Flowers touchdown with almost no time left, and it completely turned the game on its head. I think they went right out, and I think they double-dipped as well. It's crazy. Listen, if you want to beat the Ravens, okay, it starts with scoring 30 points. Period. Okay? Especially now that they've been firing on all cylinders like that. Those weeks 1 and 2 games are in the past. You want to beat the Ravens? Score 30 points. You want to talk about the Chiefs or the Raiders? Even Cleveland scored 29 on them last week, all right? That's close enough for me to say that. You're scoring 30 every week. And like I said, that 29 that Cleveland scored to beat them last week was their first loss since week 2. I mean, what do you do? When Lamar, the passer, and we've heard that if you've listened to the alt and you've made it and you've been with me this season, and we're kind of connecting on those same wavelengths here and you're kind of paying attention to what I'm saying consistently, I've talked about Lamar, the passer, this season. He's the quarterback. His legs make him so dynamic, so hard to bring down. Adds a whole new layer to their offense, and it's why he is so legitimately valuable. But when Lamar, the passer, just the passer, is this good, like he was today, I don't know how you stop him. And they're dropping 40 points a game, it seems like. You have no shot when Lamar, the passer, is this good. He was 16 for 19. He had as many incompletions as passing touchdowns today. What do you do? And in some of these games, he's hardly running the ball. So that's why I'm really emphasizing Lamar, the passer. I don't know how you stop him. Like, it's funny, like my preseason Super Bowl prediction was the Ravens beating the Lions in New Orleans. And for all intents and purposes right now, I get like they're 6-3. They just had a loss. They can't have any stinkers in the playoffs, but that really does feel like the trajectory they're on if it's not going to be Lions-Chiefs. It's Lions-Chiefs or Lions-Ravens right now. I think head-to-head, if we replay that Chiefs game, I think the Ravens would have beaten them most of the time. I think if they played a game right now, I'd have the Ravens favored on a neutral field by a point or two. I just love what I'm seeing from this offense. The defense needs to step up, and they'll get better at the deadline. And they got Deontay Johnson. That's great. I don't think he did much of anything today, which wasn't expected for him to or anything. But, man, they look awesome right now. For Denver, let's focus on you for just a second here and say this is the part of the schedule where it gets kind of tough for a bit. The Ravens was the start of it. We knew that. Your next two are at Kansas City for a divisional matchup that you've struggled in recently, and then Atlanta at home. You need one of those two to avoid falling below 500. You want to be 6-5 through 11 games. You need one of those two. You lose them both, which I think you will be favored to lose them both. I think the Falcons will be favored to beat Denver at Denver. You're below 500 after a glorious 5-3 start. And depending on the fashion of those games, if they go like today, it could be scary hours for a team that I do fully see being in that wild card hunt and making it come January if they keep playing the way they have so far. Bo Nix can't have another game like this, though. He can't. For Baltimore, this was just another game. You got back on what I still believe to be a Super Bowl winning path. And next week, they have a big opportunity to continue that path and sweep the season series against Cincinnati when they come to town for Thursday Night Football. So, Ravens, doing what you need to do. Denver, tough one today, not indicative of how the season has looked, and you can still absolutely manage to pull off a very nice playoff appearance this season and just string together some wins. The schedule lines up at the end. Get through these next few weeks, win one of two, and you're looking good. All right. With that said, there's too many games to talk about. One show ran by one person, scheduled by one person, planned by one person, filmed by one person, edited by one person, posted by one person. We've talked about this before. That's why on these Sunday episodes going into Monday, we've been doing this thing called 5 and 5, where I give you 5 takes in 5 minutes, focusing on 5 different teams usually from the games on Sunday. So let's get right to it, and we'll end the show with that. This is 5 and 5. Let's go. Number 1. After a weird start, where many of us were rightly critical of them, Arizona has maintained their lead in the NFC West and looks like a really good playoff team. Kyler wasn't a world beater today, but he has shown that he can be on certain weeks, and like that Monday night game against the Chargers was just kind of whatever. He's playing good football. And I would really like to see them in January, and I don't think we're giving them enough credit for the way they're handling their business in a division that is so wide open. You've heard me say it a million times. It is so wide open, and they are absolutely the team to beat right now in that division with the way it's kind of shaken up. It's crazy how things have unfolded in the NFC West. Arizona still on top after week 9. Take number 2. Let's focus on that same game for a little bit today. After a heartbreaking loss where you underperformed and lost because of a legitimate once-in-a-lifetime play with some antics beforehand, the Bears crapped the bed today against the Arizona Cardinals. Listen, I have had my questions about Matt Eberflus and the way he is coaching this team. Caleb is throwing the ball way too much. Way too much. Your star quarterback went 22 for 41 today. 41 pass attempts, and you scored 9 points? What? I don't understand the way they're coached. That's my critique of them. I don't understand the way. I hate the way this team is coached. So, a heartbreaker last week, whatever. This is one of those games where, you could not afford to have that after that, because you have to wonder, are we headed down a weird path that ends with them missing the playoffs and Eberflus getting fired? Could be. There are questions about whether or not that would help the Bears in the long haul that we can talk about when we get there, but for now, not what you want to see if you're a Bears fan, or if you're someone like me that has them in your playoff predictions. Take number 3. I hate to, but let's go double negative here. I told everyone in the world and all my listeners, fade the New Orleans Saints. I don't trust them after their 2-0 start. But I didn't think that they'd lose 7 straight. And it's worth noting to me at this point, I have to talk about the tier of teams that I said before the season I ranked you Super Bowl contender, playoff contender, whatever, rebuilding. At the bottom was, I don't know what you're doing. Right? Those teams, the 2-7 Oakland Raiders or Las Vegas Raiders, who have now thrown out their third quarterback in Desmond Ridder after benching Gardner Minshew today and Aiden O'Connell being hurt. The New England Patriots, who are 2-7, their 2 wins are against teams who are also having weird seasons, and the Bengals and the Jets. I don't know what they're doing. They're at least starting Drake May. And now the New Orleans Saints, who look like they're going to get everyone fired after a 7th straight loss, including one today to the Carolina Panthers. Congrats to the Panthers. Congrats to Bryce Young. Treads, who comes on the show every week, saying this was Bryce Young's first ever victory formation. That is so sad. Congrats to them. For the Saints, I said it before the season, I don't know what you're doing. I don't see you all getting 7 wins this season. Now, we're 9 games in, and that looks to be accurate, but we're a far cry from how this team started. Take number 4. The Bills quietly keep taking care of business and were able to beat the Miami Dolphins 30-27 today. They are setting themselves up for a huge Week 11 game ahead of the bye. The take, essentially, is that if they're able to keep doing this, the 1 seed in the AFC is very much still in reach. They need some help that they can do for themselves by beating the Chiefs in a few weeks. That game is going to be huge. It's been circled for months on my calendar. I told you about it after week 3 when the Chiefs went 3-0. I'm like, week 11, Bills, Chiefs. Chiefs are going to be 9-0, okay? The Bills might be 10-1. Or not 10-1. They already have 2 losses. The Bills might be 9-2 ahead of their bye coming after that week. And so we might get 10-0 versus 9-2. That game is going to rock. The Bills taking care of business. Keep your eye on them. No one's talking about them because they're not sexy at the moment. I don't know why they're not. Their defense is questionable, I guess. Keep your eye on them. Just saying. Take number 5. Let's wrap it up with this. Jane Daniels and the 7-2 Washington Commanders have gotten a ton of national attention, but I do want to point out something that is, for some reason, not getting talked about enough. The fact that he is going to get MVP votes. Now, I think they vote for first, second, third place, right? He might not get first place votes. Maybe I'm wrong as to how they do that. I think that's how they do it. He might not get first place votes. He's getting votes. I called it after, again, week 3. I'm like, dude, he's going to get MVP votes. He looks awesome. And I don't know how they're able to do this with what they have on defense, which is very questionable. An offensive line that looks very questionable. But he makes great decisions. He is so dynamic. He's been a top 5 quarterback all season. The conversations around him in the offseason are going to be very interesting as to how we kind of place him in that hierarchy. But for right now, I just want to again point out, as a take, Jane Daniels is legitimately going to get some MVP talks. I don't think he gets first. I don't think he wins it because he's a rookie. But it's worth noting, he's going to be in the conversation. So as it's become a little bit of tradition, I think we went a little over there. It was like 5:30, 5:40, something like that. But I love doing that segment and just kind of talking as quickly as I can for 5 minutes. So much football. It's a lot of fun. But with that said, that does wrap up today's episode of The Alt. We do have a Monday night game tomorrow that is going to be just, in my opinion. I don't like this Bucs team without their 2-star receivers. The Chiefs, I think, are going to roll them, and I think we all think the Chiefs are going to roll them. So tune in on Tuesday. We'll talk about it, and we'll talk about how much the Chiefs beat them by and if they finally looked good on offense or not. And we'll talk about some other stuff from Week 9 that we're able to talk about. Vikings, Colts, things like that. It's going to be good. With that said, I appreciate you if you made it this far on the show. I don't take you for granted. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the episode. With that said, that is it for this one, and I will see you back here bright and early, for real, tomorrow.